I had just witnessed, unnoticed, what my beloved wife did every Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. This time was supposedly her workout time at the local gym, which she attended twice a week. Stepping back, I'm a primary school teacher, so I have a very predictable work schedule. The school had staff meetings at a certain time and every Tuesday afternoon, which always lasted until 18. This meant that I was always home by 7. Terry was always very tired on Tuesday nights due to her gym workouts, so I would usually make dinner while she showered and made the beds, etc. Tuesday was also her laundry day, so she always had clean sheets on her bed on Tuesday night and a washing machine full of dirty laundry. Our principal unexpectedly canceled the staff meeting today due to an unexpected visit from the proctor, so I returned to my classroom and finished grading papers for the day. It was still only 15:30. On a whim, I decided to go home and make dinner early and maybe do the rest of the house cleaning before Terry got home from the gym. She had been gradually becoming more distant lately, and I thought that a candlelit dinner and a relaxing atmosphere without urgent household chores might rekindle the feelings between us. As someone with type 1 diabetes, my body's abilities were compromised. I came to terms with this over the years as the complications of diabetes gradually worsened. I did not consider this a serious problem, since all our love encounters from early marriage always proceeded on my initiative. Terry retained this Catholic guilt about it all, instilled in her through her religious upbringing as a child. She never wanted to try new things. It was me who always suggested different ways to diversify our sex life, only to hear, "No, we can't do that." As I said, I have accepted this fate in our marriage. Surely there was more to marriage than just sex. We seemed to get along pretty well, except for the occasional heated argument, usually over financial matters. However, recently I have noticed that she is becoming increasingly distant from me, often putting me down for my poor physical abilities in bed. She increasingly wanted to control every aspect of our lives and became stubborn and grumpy when she didn't get her way. I chalked it up to normal marriage difficulties and tried to carry on as usual, trying not to provoke any unwanted arguments, hoping that it would somehow work itself out. I was a patient person. Today I arrived home, as usual, parking in our garage, which was far from the house. This garage location was done so that when our children were small and asleep, the noise from the car would not disturb their sleep. Their sleep was precious not only because it was good for their health, but also because it kept us sane. We had some quiet time to recharge while they slept. I parked and walked slowly towards our two-story house. Terry's car was there, as it always was during her practice, as she said she preferred the bus on days like this. My head was already in cleaning mode when I quietly entered through the back door. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, so every door hinge and moving part of our house was well oiled and quiet. Nothing annoyed us more than loud doors or squeaky hinges. The first thing I noticed was that Terry's purse was still lying on the kitchen table. She's going to be pissed, I thought. Terry was meticulous about making sure her wallet was always within reach no matter where she was. This anomaly changed my attitude towards cleaning, and I began to notice other things. Her workout clothes, mostly a tight jumpsuit and a large towel, lay on the floor next to the kitchen table. What? I thought, not yet realizing all the unpleasant consequences. Then I heard sounds coming from our upstairs bedroom. We designed our house so that the parents had a private space upstairs and the rest of the house, including the children's bedrooms, was downstairs. Maybe Terry has suddenly become ill and she's upstairs, I thought innocently. I carefully and quietly walked up the carpeted steps. Again, the house was designed for minimal noise. Sleeping children and all. I was about to call her to see if she was okay and if there was anything I could do to help when I almost tripped over my shoes on the steps. These were men's shoes. Those weren't my shoes, and not the long trousers, shirt, t-shirt, and socks scattered along the remaining steps. I'm not a slow learner, I just trustingly did not realize that this was possible. At that moment, my logical brain contradicted all my many years of marriage experiences based on innocence, trust, and belief in the fidelity, love, and devotion of my marriage partner. I stopped. My skin has become sweaty, and my blood pressure dropped until my heart momentarily lost its rhythm. Am I having a low sugar attack? I needed to sit down on the steps and regain my composure, otherwise I would have fallen downstairs in a faint. No, I whispered again and again. My disbelief turned to anger, an emotion I was not used to. I am usually a calm, balanced person. Being a teacher, managing 30 different kids all day reinforced this in me many years ago. But now it has failed me. Adrenaline hit, and I saw red for the first time in my life. I've never fought anyone before. These feelings were completely foreign to me. However, despite all these strange feelings invading my system, an eerie curiosity forced me to carefully and quietly continue up the stairs and enter our double-sided dressing room. One door led to the bedroom and the other to the upstairs bathroom. Walking through the bathroom, I could access a large walk-in closet that connected to our bedroom. Once at the closet door, I could see the bedroom clearly. The dressing room door was slightly open, and at such a distance that I could see the bed. I felt like I was watching a horror movie. I filmed everything on my phone. It was my wife, my lover, my life partner, the one I trusted without a doubt, mother of our grown children, a sexy 40-year-old woman who played sports, helped charities in the area, and told me she loved me above all else. It was a betrayal. Betrayal at the most primitive level. It wrenched my guts. Literally, I had to stop recording, quickly go downstairs, and go out into the garage, where I threw up. My body cleared the contents of my stomach, while my mind yearned for a similar cleansing from the sensory torture I had just endured. It seemed like hours, but in reality it was probably only 30 minutes, when I left our yard and started walking, not knowing where, but ended up in some park a few miles from our house. There I washed my face, sat down and watched the recording. The sound was turned off so as not to disturb the children playing around me, and their mothers were talking to each other in the seats around them. Luckily, none of them saw what I was watching. The destruction of my life and everything I used to consider normal was in digital reality on my phone screen. The destruction of our marriage. That's when I cried. My stomach has cleared. Now it's time to give free rein to my emotions and cleanse my psyche in the same way. I cried until a sound interrupted me. The warning beep of impending battery failure distracted me from sobbing. The park was empty. Empty like my soul. My body felt light, almost unearthly, as I floated home. All the weight that was holding me and my life down was taken from me, leaving me only a walking shell. I felt like a balloon floating with the wind, held only by a string so as not to disappear into the sky. It was about 19 and my normal return time is on the day of the staff meeting. I was home again, at the back door, when Terry saw me. She immediately realized that something was wrong with me. The disheveled shirt, red eyes, and pale skin all gave it away. "What happened, dear? You look very pale." "Everything is fine." She touched my shoulder in a compassionate motherly gesture, leading me to the nearest kitchen chairs. "I'll get you a drink. You smell like you just threw up. Are you all right?" Her eyes told me she was genuinely concerned. I couldn't tell her what really made me angry. Not yet. I simply answered in a trembling voice. "Not really. Something upset my stomach. Maybe lunch. Sorry, but I threw up outside the garage. I'll clean it up later." I muttered something else that I can't remember, but the gist was that I took a shower and went to bed. Terry replied, "Okay, honey, but take the container to bed with you. If you throw up again, it might be on those lovely clean sheets. Those damn sheets. They were clean, but now they were much more dirty than last night's dinner. They were stained with the stains of pure betrayal." I responded a little more forcefully, "It's okay. I'll sleep in the spare room until I feel better." And he wandered into the spare bedroom downstairs. And so it was for the next few days. Terry was herself. I worked on autopilot and slept in the spare room, in case I threw up again. I knew I couldn't stand this excuse for long. I eventually made it back to our bedroom, but I was having a lot of trouble sleeping in this rascal's nest. Terry seemed oblivious to my concern and continued in her usual manner. Monday came and I had already decided what to do. I needed to know if this was a constant occurrence or something that happened on its own. I informed my principal that I was having an unexpected medical procedure the next day, and he arranged for a temporary teacher to teach in my place. On Tuesday morning, I left as usual, but parked on a few streets in the neighborhood and returned to our street. I knew the back entrances to the yards near our house, and carefully, so as not to be noticed by the neighbors, I made my way into our garage at the back of the house. There I changed into casual clothes and soft socks for a relaxing walk. Back then it was a waiting game. When I arrived home unexpectedly last Tuesday, I remembered that there was no extra car at home, so I couldn't rely on the sound of a car arriving to alert me to any visitors. This bastard has to come here. I carefully crept around our gardens until I was in a spot that allowed me to see our front door, while being screened by the hedges and bushes we had planted for privacy from the road. I was waiting. I could hear Terry going about her business, completely oblivious to my presence. Her confidence that the normal routine was going on was obvious. Kitchen, washing machine, dishwasher. Hallway, vacuuming and wiping off dust. This continued until about 11:30. Terry then went upstairs. I could only hear the shower, followed by a period of silence, and then the toilet flushing. She came back down about 45 minutes later. With the dirty sheets in her hands, she put them in the washing machine. She was wearing sportswear and looked like she had just taken a shower. I loved it when she wore her sports swimsuits. They really accentuated her narrow waist and hips, as well as her lovely full breasts. Regular gym sessions really helped her look better, and I have to admit, she looked hot. Then she opened the front door and left it open, so that if anyone came, he would not have to hesitate, but go straight in, I suppose. It didn't look very good. My hope that what I saw was Terry's momentary descent into madness seemed like a vain hope. I didn't have to wait long. He arrived around 12:30. I didn't know who he was, but he came in from the left side of our gate. My phone took about 10 seconds of video, which recorded side profiles and even a nearly straight-on view of his face. He didn't hesitate. He walked right through the door. The next words I heard made my blood run cold. "Hello, honey. Hope you're dressed for your big workout again." "Certainly," came a reply from Terry. "As usual, in my lion. You always like it when I wear them. Sometimes I wonder if that's what attracted you to me in the first place." They made love. I returned to the garage and began to think about my actions. My heart was still pounding. I needed to calm down, but I also needed to learn more. Who, where, why, when I already knew? How was I going to tell Terry that I knew about her cheating? This conversation will probably be more painful for me than for her. She had plenty of time to rationalize and sort out what she was doing. All of this was just thrown into my world in an instant. I realized that I could never love my wife Terry again. The betrayal has gone too far. I know some people say that with the right counseling and a certain amount of commitment on both sides, things like this can be overcome, but damn, Terry's commitment was clearly low. I can never be with her again. What bothered me the most was the why. Why did she do this? I knew we didn't have an active sex life, but her entire life with me was one, ruled by Catholic guilt about sex and the pleasure it brought. Sex was for creating children, not for pleasure and pleasure. Passion was one of the 7 deadly sins. It was I who always tried to add spice and adventure to our sex life while I was physically able. I always knew that one day my diabetes would start to negatively affect my body parts. So why did Terry now suddenly want to explore all these things that she had categorically rejected for many years of our marriage? And why didn't she discuss these new desires with me first? I realized that sexual betrayal was just an outward manifestation of a deeper lack of trust and desire to share intimacy. My marriage has completely broken down. She betrayed our marriage to the very core. I admit I felt guilty for her betrayal. Maybe I could have done more to improve our sex life, but maybe I should have constantly asked her about her desires instead of allowing the status quo to take hold. Maybe she felt she couldn't discuss it with me. I needed to look deeper into these issues. Where and when did this all start? I knew Terry had been going to her gym workouts for at least 2 years. This was her New Year's resolution all those years ago. I fully supported her in this. As a diabetic, I fully understood the need to maintain a healthy, balanced lifestyle that included regular exercise. I knew that Terry went to a gym 2 bus stops from our house, one that was visited by many married ladies in our area. I thought this was a great idea as it helped Terry connect with other women and create a little community among our neighbors. These women became very close to her. They even convinced her to help with numerous charity events in our area. Perhaps the gym was the place to start. As a teacher, I had access to computers, printers, and more. I printed out the photos from the videos on my phone and decided to start by finding out the who. Perhaps this will lead me to where and when it all started. I didn't have to search long. Terry was scheduled to go to her regular gym class the following Thursday, and I offered to go with her to see if I should join too. It was the middle of the school term, so I had a week off from school. Terry didn't really want me to go, making excuses like, "There's only a bunch of married ladies there, and we basically talk the entire session," or the weakest excuse, which sounded like, "Who will be home while I'm at the gym?" But I persisted and was eventually able to go with her the following Thursday. At first, when I walked into the gym, it was like a scene from a movie where someone orders milk in a saloon. All eyes were on me, and I also noticed some side whispers from many of the women. Terry explained this by saying that the women weren't used to seeing her with someone at her regular classes. The session began with the usual warm-ups and stretches. This was followed by an hour and a half of training on different machines to work each muscle group. I kept up as long as I could, but after about 45 minutes, I had to take a break. My blood sugar started to drop, and I knew I needed to stop and eat something sweet. I did it, and Terry understood it. After taking the gummies and waiting on the side bench, I began to observe Terry more closely and noticed that she was clearly nervous. She constantly glanced towards where the employees entered the main hall. I also started paying more attention to the gym itself. It looked like most gyms around the world. Exercise machines were located throughout the room, with mirrors on the walls of each machine so participants could monitor their posture and muscle development at each stage. I walked around and noticed a wall with employee information located near the exit from the hall. I went there, more to distract myself and pass the time until Terry finished. I looked at the top photo, which was of a woman of indeterminate age, well-built and obviously very fit. Everything is clear, I thought, reading her description. Miss Elizabeth Wiles, director and proprietor. Her contact number and opening hours have been provided below. There were 3 more under her photo, 2 women and 1 man. This is where I froze. I would recognize this man anywhere, even on a nudist beach. It was Terry's lover. Shaking, I read his description. Mr. Philip Bonte, Chief Exercise Program Designer and Personal Trainer. Now I know who. When I looked in Terry's direction, I noticed that she wasn't at the last gym I saw her at. I returned to my side bench and slowly began looking for it on each machine. I finally found her in a frantic conversation with a man who was partially hidden from me by a weight-lifting machine. He appeared to be standing at the door to the employee area, and Terry clearly stopped him from entering. She nervously motioned for him to leave and quickly returned to her machine. She didn't notice that I saw her absence and conversation. I was furious. Again, it was a feeling I was not used to. When Terry returned to me, she again saw that I was not feeling well. "Everything is fine. Did your sugar take a long time to recover?" "Yes. I'm fine now. Are you ready to go?" She was about to respond when Miss Wiles announced over the gym's intercom that today's finals class had been canceled because Mr. B. Bonte had suddenly become ill and had to go home. This drew a chorus of disappointed sighs and groans from most of the women. It seemed like his session was almost the climax for most of these ladies. This is worth exploring, I thought, looking at Terry. She didn't make a sound at the announcement, but she seemed relieved. "Let's go," she said hastily, gathering her towel and bag from the storage area. We had just left when one of the women, whom I did not immediately recognize, approached Terry. "It's a shame Phil couldn't finish as usual today," she commented. "Right. Terry replied and walked toward the car in a way that made it clear that she didn't want to talk about it right now. Okay, see you, Terry exclaimed. She was in the car faster than I've ever seen her. The ride home was quiet. Terry just relaxed, or at least seemed relaxed. She threw her head back, closed her eyes, and tried to breathe slowly. I noticed it. Maybe now I could find out more, since she was clearly very relieved about something. That was an interesting activity, dear, I commented. The machines are really well designed. No wonder you look so slim and fit. Thank you, dear, she replied. You are right. They do have an extensive exercise program. I like going there. The women there are nice, too. It's a pity that Mr. Bonte became ill, I continued. You mean Bonte, she answered too quickly. Philip Bonte. He usually ends each session with a set of exercises that really push everyone to give it their all and leave the gym feeling like they've really worked on their body. Yes, it's a pity that he didn't come today. Oh no, I thought. She is completely immersed in lies 100%. I know what he's doing with you. But I said, maybe he'll be fine again next week on Thursday. I thought about the upcoming meeting between my wife and Mr. Bonte next Thursday. It was time to take decisive action. The next week at school, I was on duty at the Children's Assembly. For those unfamiliar with schools, this is where teachers supervise children while their parents pick them up in cars. It is usually a bustling place where children are rushing home, talking to their friends, and looking for their parents at the same time. Parents are also in a hurry, trying to remain patient in the endless line of cars, hoping that their child will be ready when they reach the end of the line. Imagine my surprise when a car pulled up towards the end of the hour and the driver turned out to be the same woman who had tried to talk to Terry during her gym class last Thursday. Hello, she said. Sorry, I'm new to this selection and completely forgot about the time. Is my son Timothy here? As teachers, we deal with situations like this all the time, especially when someone is new at school, so I promised that I would find him while my colleague watched the remaining children. I found Timothy waiting outside his classroom, talking to another staff member's child. Hi, Tim, I said. Your mom is here to pick you up. Let's go to the meeting place. He looked a little confused. He was in his last year of elementary school and didn't seem like one who was oblivious to time. That's weird, he replied. Mom is usually busy with her fitness trainer on Friday afternoons. She is often late to pick me up. At my last school, sometimes she didn't come until 5:30. The words fitness trainer immediately alerted me. I continued, trying to remain calm and just carry on the conversation. Oh, it's good that Mom is taking care of herself. Exercise is an important part of a healthy lifestyle. What's the coach's name, by the way? I hoped the answer wouldn't be what I thought it would be. Oh, his name is Bounty or something like that, Timothy replied. He also works at a local gym and often gives private lessons in people's homes. This is what I would like to do when I grow up. Mom really enjoys working with him. On Friday nights, she is very relaxed and lights up when we get home. This is cool. We always get takeout because Mom rarely has time to cook dinner on Fridays. Can't be, I thought. This boy is doing this with other people, not just my wife. I escorted Timothy back to his car, where his mother loudly expressed her gratitude for our concern. You're welcome, I replied. It's part of the service. By the way, I haven't met you before. My name is Gerard Downs. All the kids call me Mr. D for short. Nice to meet you. I shook her hand and she replied, Hi, Mrs. Now Miss Jones, Mary Jones. I remember you from the gym last Thursday. I came with my wife Terry. Sorry, but she seemed a little in a hurry when she left. Me. Bounty's absence seemed to unsettle everyone that evening. At that moment, her entire facial expression changed dramatically. Whereas before she had simply been an apologetic late parent picking up their child from school, now she immediately turned pale and wary. She was almost shaking. Yes, okay. See you, Mr. Downs. Goodbye, and left. Wow, I thought. What's going on here? Does our bastard Phil sleep with other women too? I admire his toughness, but it doesn't change the fact that he's an absolute bastard. I am not a moralist who judges everyone by their sexual behavior. Not at all. What happens between two or more consenting adults is their business. However, when one of the adults is married, there is a line that cannot be crossed. If a married person feels the need to have sex with someone else, he should discuss either divorce or an open marriage with his partner. Not doing this is low. As low as possible. For a single person to voluntarily and knowingly enter into a relationship with a married person is also wrong in my understanding. It was time to plan my future, which I was thinking of doing with my then lover Terry. This future seemed bleak. It included just me, alone, without Terry, definitely, but maybe also without anyone. My anger allowed me to go down a path I never thought to explore, the path of revenge. I started collecting all the important little details that are hidden in a couple's daily life. Who pays the bills? Which insurance company do we work with? When do we pay utility bills? From which account is a particular bill paid and when? And so on and so forth. My database of all this information began to grow. I discovered that we only had a small amount left to pay on our mortgage and that my retirement account had reached a staggering $900. Thank you to our teachers' union for insisting that compulsory pension contributions be part of teachers' basic conditions of employment. I realized that according to what I read on the internet, there is no way to avoid the fact that all our assets should be divided equally. Our children were no longer dependent on us. We actually had a lot of savings in cash ready for our planned trip abroad. About $30,000. This trip will no longer take place. I decided that the first step would be to seize these funds as quickly as possible before Terry learned that I had discovered her betrayal. Terry's Thursday sessions with Bonte continued. I no longer attempted to pursue a sexual relationship with Terry. We just lived together, like two roommates. My personal belongings gradually disappeared into boxes in the garage. Terry rarely went into the garage, so she didn't notice the changes. Her car was usually parked in front of him. She was content to leave the garage as my territory. One day, she asked why some of my personal items were no longer on the shelves. I just laughed it off, saying I accidentally broke them or didn't want them anymore. She was happy with these answers, mainly because most of my items didn't match her color scheme or what she wanted the room to look like. When most of my things were put away this way, it really didn't make much of a difference to the interior of the house. It made me realize how much I had given in by allowing Terry to dominate so much of our existence. I took all the money I could out of my retirement account and bought a small house, a very small house on the outskirts of town. It only had 2 bedrooms and a small yard, but it had a garage and was close enough to the school where I worked. The good part was that the mortgage balance was such that I could easily handle the payments, even on half my salary. This was not a mansion. It's amazing what good deals you can find if you don't aim for shiny, popular areas. My preparations for separation were in full swing. I gradually moved my personal belongings to the new house. Furniture was not an issue as I could easily find used items in thrift stores. My life seemed used, once loved, but now forgotten and relying on charity to have any value. It's time for the players to get their well-deserved rewards. I edited the footage I had of Terry and Phil. Soundless. What they said to each other was too painful. At one point, I heard that bastard Phil call me that sucker. Terry didn't object, But to her credit, she flinched slightly. She knew that what she did was wrong, and her guilt showed itself often in small details. After each session with her lover on Thursday, she tried to initiate some form of contact with me, of course on Friday as she had to recover. But I couldn't agree. My heart and ego were as cold as ice. Okay, maybe some of the blame was on me too. However, I did not look for satisfaction on the side. The complete change I saw in Terry often left me speechless. I often found myself just shaking my head and staring into space. I could have taken this journey of sexual freedom and experimentation with her, instead of being left behind by her betrayal and deceit. At this time, contact with Mary Jones again occurred. This time she initiated contact. I will always remember this. Again, it was at a children's gathering after school. She was the last parent to arrive, so I was left alone with Timothy, her son, awaiting her arrival. When she arrived, she looked back, and I saw that she was very nervous and seemed to have recently cried. Teachers notice these things because they often indicate what's going on in students' lives and give us clues about how to help them learn better. "Mr. D, can I see you for a minute?" she asked nervously. "Certainly. No one is coming, so just leave the car there and go to my office," I replied. I always called the benches around the school my office. She parked, Timothy played with a soccer ball, and we sat together on a bench near the assembly area. "I don't know how to start what I want to say," she began. "I don't know how aware you are of the gym you saw me at." I looked her straight in the eyes. "I know my wife Terry loves going there, and that it has really helped her stay fit and active," I answered carefully. "There are things you should know about what's going on there," she continued. I saw that she began to cry, and it was hard to speak. "Does this have anything to do with Philip Bonte?" I asked, trying to quickly bring her to the point. "You have no idea how much this has to do with that pig," she said with rage. "I think I know, Mary," I replied. "Thanks for sharing this," unable to keep the venom out of his voice. "But I already have a plan for the whole situation. I really believe in karma, and I think it may manifest itself soon." "This bastard has to pay," Mary almost screamed. "He doesn't care who or how he hurts, just to satisfy his sexual vanity. It's something he can show off to his friends at the bar. If you need my help to get revenge on him, let me know. This bastard must pay and pay dearly," she repeated. She called her son and left. I sat there for a long time, thinking. I was almost glad that Mary shared this with me. For a while, my plan for revenge seemed to be simply a manifestation of jealousy over my inability to save my marriage. I needed to think more. I wondered how many more women he had involved from the gym. It's time to gather the facts. I couldn't help but admire this man's endurance, but I guess even the devil doesn't get tired. I found out that he works there every day except Monday when the gym is closed. I remembered the phone number listed on the stand at the gym. Using the telecommunications company directory, I found his address, no more than 3 blocks from our house. No wonder this asshole could walk to our house. I told Terry that I would be walking every day at 5 p.m. I told her that this was at the insistence of my diabetologist. Luckily, Terry didn't want to join and knew it wouldn't interfere with her meetings, so everything went smoothly. The first evening, I went straight to Bonte's address and saw that he lived on the ground floor of an apartment building. His car wasn't there, so I waited nearby to see when he arrived. He always left our house before 6, so I assumed he would return around that time. That's right, he entered his apartment a little before 6. This was repeated every day when I could walk, except the day of my meeting at school. I figured he does this every day the gym is open. Does he sleep with women every day? I was again amazed at his endurance. I needed to know if he had sex with other women. My walks began to start earlier and earlier to see when and where he went each day. I decided to take a whole week off from school for this purpose. Luckily, having been a diabetic for many years, it was easy to get a sick note from my doctor. I visited an electronics store and bought everything I needed. A long-range listening device, one of those discrete ones, not the kind that looks like a satellite dish. Voice and motion activated cameras, full color HD. I bought 5 of these cameras. another portable hard drive from my computer. I had to store all the digital evidence somewhere. On Monday, after purchasing the necessary items, I installed one of the cameras in Bonte's apartment. Luckily, it wasn't that big. It was basically a one-room apartment with a large living and kitchen dining area. One camera was enough to cover everything except his bedroom. It was easy to install. I just waited until he left for the gym and grabbed his keys from under the doormat. This idiot couldn't have been more creative. After checking that the camera was working, I left. Now, whenever he moved or made noise in his apartment, the camera with microphone would activate and transmit all the video and audio in real time to my computer, where it was also saved with timestamps. The camera started rolling as soon as Bonte returned home Monday evening. There was great footage of him eating takeaway in front of the TV before he went to bed around 9 p.m. On Tuesday, I waited until the gym closed and snuck in through the back door. This was the door that most stores often forget to check before closing. I'm lucky. I set up the following camera in a private room in the back of the gym where one-on-one health consultations were held. This was the room where Bonte often received his private clients. What kind of person have I become? Installing cameras in other people's places. A spy? Where will this all lead? On Wednesday, I waited until Terry went grocery shopping and installed the third and fourth cameras in our bedroom and living room. I've been looking through the tapes since Tuesday and was surprised by what I saw and heard, but not really, given the context. Bonte woke up and immediately went out. He returned later with breakfast. The lazy bastard can't even cook his own breakfast, I thought. Then I remembered his sexual stamina and blamed myself. This man was really full of energy. He had to be doing something right physically to maintain that level of activity. He stayed home until the gym opened and then left around 10:30. He made one interesting phone call. Julie? Hello, this is Phil. He has already gone. Pause. Okay, see you at 12:30 at your home. Make sure you wear what I said. No, I'll be careful. No one will see me enter your house. Did you say he's leaving for 3 days? Fine. Maybe I can come on Thursday and Friday. We'll talk later, honey. With these words, he hung up and left with an obvious spring in his step. I wondered how he would explain this to Terry. On Thursday, I went down to the garage with my computer and waited for the action to begin. Almost immediately, Bonte's camera began broadcasting onto my screen. He woke up and, after going out to get breakfast, returned and dialed the number. It was Terry's phone number. The cameras showed her side of the conversation, too. This spy shit was exciting. Hey, it's Phil. How is my beloved feeling today? Should Dr. Phil take care of her? Phil, don't say that on the phone. You never know who might be listening. Luckily, my stupid husband went to work. I really, really need you. She laughed. See you at 12:30 as usual. Of course, Phil replied. I might have a surprise for you. Are you ready for something new? He waited. I noticed that Terry only hesitated for a few seconds before answering. Anything, cannot wait, and both hung up. I wonder what this is, I thought. At 10:30, Bonte went to the gym. The camera in his private room activated shortly after. She showed him sitting at a table with an attractive woman sitting across from him. So, Mrs. White, can I call you Joan? Do you want a customized training program? Is our program no longer suited to your needs? He asked. Well, yes and no, Joan answered flirtatiously. My body is becoming much more toned. I feel it improving every day. Unfortunately, this extra fitness and endurance comes with too many hormones, if you know what I mean. I haven't felt this much vitality in years. I know what you're saying, Joan, Bonte said. Even through the hidden camera audio, I could almost hear the lust in his voice. Let me see what I can do, he continued. He suddenly stopped and sat down opposite her again. We can plan personal training after the gym. Unfortunately, I can't do them here in the gym. You live near? I could come to your house if that would be no problem. He said this in a questioning tone. She nodded and said it would be great. She added that her husband, Mr. White, was away on a business trip and that they would be all alone. Mr. White won't be a problem, she said. He goes away often, but it might be best to keep these extra activities a secret for now. Of course, he replied. How about Friday at 12:30, tomorrow? Fantastic, Joan exclaimed. She couldn't hide her excitement as she left the gym. Strangely, she seemed quite relaxed during her gym session that day. Mary, Timothy's mother, seemed very willing to help in any way, so I asked her to put together a list of women this bastard had slept with or is sleeping with. She did this with great enthusiasm, and within a week she had names and addresses. The list consisted of 30 women, all of whom were members or former members of the gym. Terry's name was also on this list, a fact that filled me with shame and anger. Now I have almost completely freed myself from our home. I won't call it home because it has lost all emotional value. Now it was just a house. Terry once noticed that the house seemed empty lately. I simply replied that I was trying to get rid of unnecessary junk. She accepted this as it had nothing to do with her things. She even liked that now she had more space for her things. The garage items have now also been moved to my new home. All I had left to do to complete the move would be 20 minutes to pack up the remaining things and leave in the car. I contacted a divorce lawyer, and all the documents were ready to be filed at a moment's notice. Financial issues have been resolved. Our holiday fund was completely drained into my personal account. I had all the receipts for the fictitious purchases in a folder, ready to be presented if necessary. The beneficiaries of my pension fund were changed to our children, and all available amounts were withdrawn. I had my own accounts, my own credit cards, my own insurance policies. I changed the registration and insurance on Terry's car to her name. From now on, she is fully responsible for this. I could not manage the house, so here I had to rely on the courts. I bought a new mobile phone in your name and made sure it was with an unregistered number. I canceled the original phone number. I prepared a set of surprises for each husband-partner of the women Mary identified. Each set included details of when and where this bastard had sex with their partners. There was also his name and address. The last item in the set was the address of a sexually transmitted disease clinic in our city, since most sex seemed to take place without protection. I also left an anonymous review on the gym's website, insinuating that the place was known to be a place where sexual predators preyed on married women. I also sent a detailed email to the gym owner stating that now is the right time to have a serious conversation with their chief instructor. I left the divorce papers, printed photographs of the videotapes of Terry and Phil, and DVDs of their encounters on our kitchen table. My wedding ring was cut in half and covered in excrement, and I placed it next to this set. The note underneath read, Terry, I left you this broken ring covered in the same crap you put on our marriage. Do not contact me unless through the attorney listed on the divorce papers. I asked the school to ban you from entering its grounds, so don't try to contact me there. The police are quick to arrest anyone causing trouble on school grounds. I informed our children about what I was doing. To avoid any confusion and to prevent false words being said about who initiated the breakup, I sent copies of the DVDs to them. Bitch, I drove to my new home and waited for the storm to start. And it started with great force. One day, local newspapers found out about a scandal at a local gym. The owner had no choice but to close the establishment and leave the city. A certain former gym instructor was found beaten. He was believed to have been attacked by a group of unknown men. Many divorce petitions were filed in the local court, and many houses were put up for sale. Terry returned home that fateful day, saw my gifts, and immediately fainted. A neighbor heard a scream and saw her fall. It didn't take long for our old neighbor, a robust woman of 70, to notice the set too. She was always on top. Bitch, she shouted and spat in Terry's face. However, she called emergency services before leaving the door open. Terry tried to contact me, but she had no luck on any of the phones. She even tried to come to school and was arrested. One night in jail and a stern warning from the judge slowed down her efforts significantly. Our children made it clear to her what they thought of someone who would cheat on her husband in such a blatant manner. They were both married and, fortunately, inherited more ethical views on fidelity from me, obviously not from Terry. The divorce went through, and the remaining financial issues were resolved through the normal process. Terry had to sell the house, and the proceeds allowed her to buy another, smaller house on the outskirts of town, where she now lives alone. Shane, to be one of the notorious gym cheaters, never her didn't leave. Her face was recognizable, and whenever she appeared in the city, people cast sidelong glances at her and whispered to her. Some even spat in her direction. The resulting depression due to rejection and shame eventually led to her being cared for in a mental hospital. And I continued teaching while living in my new home, but not a single day passed without a feeling of loneliness and emptiness in this place. My heart yearned for the love and warmth of our home with my wife and children, as it did so many years ago. I took revenge, but I did not win. There are no winners when all that is left is loneliness and sadness from the betrayal of a cheating spouse. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.